Hi everyone. In 1957, Bobby Fischer, who was the US junior champion, played an 8-game match against the Philippine junior champion Rodolfo Cardoso. This was the Battle of the Prodigies, and the match was sponsored by Pepsi, of all companies. Pepsi has an interesting history. If you wish to skip straight to the game, I will leave the timestamp in the comment section. The head of Pepsi International in the late 1950s was Donald Kendall. He was an American businessman and political advisor. 2 years after this game was played, the American National Exhibition was held in Moscow. This was an exhibition of American art, cars, fashion, model homes, kitchens, etc. President Eisenhower had sent Vice President Richard Nixon to this exhibition, and Nixon got into a heated argument with the leader of the USSR, Nikita Khrushchev, in what became known as the kitchen debate. At some point, Donald Kendall decided to break the ice, offering Khrushchev a cup of Pepsi. Long story short, years and years later, a deal was made for the Soviets to start receiving shipments of Pepsi, the first agreement between a US company and the communist Soviet Union. The problem was that the Soviet ruble was non-convertible, but an arrangement was made whereby Pepsi would ship out its product to the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union would provide Pepsi with Russian vodka known as Stolichnaya. This worked out until the 1980s when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. The Soviet invasion itself was in late 1979, and the American public boycotted Soviet-sourced products, including their vodka. This caused the price of vodka to drop enough for Pepsi to abandon the idea of being paid with vodka. The Soviets then sought an alternative form of payment and came up with Soviet warships and submarines. So overnight, Pepsi became the 6th largest navy in the world. There were also all these jokes that Pepsi was taking the Cola Wars way too seriously. Okay, now on to our game. I think this game has something to teach us about how to play against the Sicilian knight orb. Fischer played as white and opened the game with e4. Cardoso replied with the Sicilian defense c5, and the game continued into the knight orb variation, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6. The move that characterizes the knight orb variation. It's essentially a high-class waiting move. Here there are several approaches that white can take, including bishop e3, the English attack, bishop g5, the old main line, bishop e2, the classical. Fischer played what would later become known as the Fischer attack, bishop c4. And this is an approach you can take when you play your own games. We're putting the bishop on the a2, g8 diagonal, and thereby targeting the Achilles heel of black's position, the f7 pawn. What we're also doing is almost forcing black to play e6, the Scheveningen structure, so that our light square bishop is biting on granite. However, from the point of view of white, we have to keep the long-term picture in mind. First, we're going to be positioning our bishop to b3, often pretty early in the game, and from there, that bishop will serve an important role, preventing black from expanding further in the center. Second, our idea will sometimes be to play f4, and later, generally f5, to strengthen our light square bishop by softening up the pawns and squares that it attacks. At least that is the idea we will be looking at in this game. There is at least one other important way of playing for white involving the move Queen f3, but we will look at that idea in another video. Cardoso proceeded as expected, e6. Here the most popular way of playing is bishop b3. Fischer played the move that is the second most popular move today, castle kingside, bishop e7, clearing the way for Cardoso to castle, bishop e3. Modern theory would suggest that this move brings the bishop out a little too early. The dark square bishop exerts influence over the c1 h6 diagonal even without being moved this early. Bishop b3 would have been a more important move to play instead. Castle kingside, bishop b3, knight c6, f4. This is the idea we discussed. Fischer wants to weaken black's center with f5 at the right moment, of course. So what's stopping black from simply playing knight a5 and taking what is set to become a powerful light square bishop? The problem with this idea is that it takes too much time, but Cardoso went for this idea anyway. Knight a5, attacking the bishop. Queen f3, with all the minor pieces developed, Fischer decides to develop the queen and connect his rooks. Queen c7. One idea behind this move, besides simply developing the queen, is to be able to play bishop b7 after the b-pawn moves, with the queen protecting the b7 bishop in response to any e5 moves by Fischer, which would open up a discovered attack on the a8 rook. Obviously, black does have the a5 knight here defending the b7 square, but that knight won't remain on a5 for too long. g5. The three-pawn storm pointing in the general direction of the black king looks quite intimidating. And it's hard to hate this move because Cardoso does not have an immediate way of attacking Fischer's king. Knight takes b3, a takes b3, doubling Fischer's b-pawns, but on the plus side, opening up the a-file. Rook b8, another move played in order to prepare to be able to play b5. For example, if the rook is back on a8, the move b5 would not work because we would have knight d takes b5, and black would not be able to play a takes b5 because that pawn is pinned, and rook takes a8 would simply win the rook. White should have focused on the center and played a move like d5. g5, Fischer is wasting no time going on the kingside attack. Knight d7, bringing that knight to safety. f5. This is a move which does weaken the e5 square, and Cardoso will occupy it on the very next move with knight e5, attacking the queen. Queen g3, moving the queen to safety. King h8, a prophylactic move, taking the king off the same file as the white queen, but black does not really have time for this and needed to play a move like b5 and look to play b4 to try to create some counterplay and weaknesses in white's camp, but white would retain an advantage in any case because of the initiative. Knight f3, looking to trade off one of the few defensive pieces that black has. Knight takes f3 check. This move is a critical mistake because it allows Fischer to get his rook more quickly into the game and contribute to the attack on the black king. Even more importantly, this is a bad move because black is trading his main defensive piece, that knight. Cardoso should have played b5 instead. Rook takes f3, b5, one move too late. Queen h4. The best plan is a simple plan that cannot be stopped. Here the plan is rook h3, threatening checkmate on h7. After h6, white will have f6. E takes f5. Here the position is completely winning for Fischer, but the most precise way of playing is probably rook h3 or bishop d4. What Fischer played wins too. E takes f5. Queen c6, attacking the rook. Rook a f1, protecting the f3 rook and bringing the other rook closer to the action. Even more effective would have been to bring the knight into the action by playing knight e4. Bishop b7, bishop d4, b4, bishop takes g7 check, a bishop sacrifice. It looks nice, but today's engines say that with perfect play, black can draw this game. Let's keep in mind that with sacrifices, they don't have to be sound as long as your opponent is not able to find the correct defensive moves. This sacrifice works because finding the correct defensive moves requires a very strong chess engine. King takes g7, queen h6 check, king h7, g6. Queen c5 check, a move that misses a very hard to see variation that equalizes for black. Let's take a very quick look at it. F takes g6. Now this leads to a sharp engine line. F takes g6 and the move rook f7. Black has to stop checkmate somehow. But what a move this is. It's so counterintuitive to place the rook on the chopping block, but it works. G takes f7. White is up a minor piece, and white's c3 knight is being attacked. However, black does not have to take it back. Rook f8, queen e6, queen c5 check, rook e3, bishop g5, attacking the pinned piece, knight d1, bishop d5, attacking the queen, queen e8, attacking the rook. Black cannot take because f takes e8, queen. King g7, protecting the rook. Apparently everything is holding in this position. It should be a draw with best play. Now let's go back and look at the move that was actually played, which was queen c5 check. Queen c5 check, rook 1 f2, f takes g6, f takes g6. Now the threat is queen takes h7 checkmate. And black has no good way of stopping it. Rook f7 just loses the rook. Queen g5, forcing a trade of the queens. Queen takes g5, bishop takes g5, and Fischer here gets to grab an extra rook. Rook takes f8, check. Rook takes f8, rook takes f8, king g7, g takes h7, and Cardoso resigned in this position. If black plays king takes f8, we have h8 queen check. And if black plays king takes h7, we have rook f7 check, king g6, rook takes b7, b takes c3, b takes c3. White is up the exchange and has 2 extra pawns. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video.